Happy Thursday, April 25th, everyone. Hunter here again at Weather on the Go, and in today's weather forecast, a multi-day severe weather outbreak is looming for today and all the way through the weekend through Sunday, April 28th. We're going to be diving into each of the breakdowns, the severe weather setups, the storm risks of the areas that could see the biggest storms with this outbreak, and the timing of when you can expect the storms, all in today's weather forecast. We're also going to look at the long range outlook into early May in detail, what you can expect through the first week of May in today's weather forecast. So thank you all for being here. I hope everybody's having a wonderful week out there so far. If you do enjoy my weather forecast and you're just tuning in for the first time as well, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below if you haven't already. Also be sure to press the like button down below. It's the thumbs up button. It helps out more than you know, and I really do appreciate it. So let's look here this morning at our temperature anomalies, because over here into the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, up into the Northeast, we're still seeing those below normal temperature anomalies as of this Thursday morning. And this is bringing more frost and hard freeze conditions across the Great Lakes, parts of the Ohio Valley on up there into the Northeast, especially over here into Maine, into the Caribou region, waking up to mid-20s this morning with the hard freeze. So definitely some colder temperatures out the door. Make sure to bundle up across those areas as well as you're heading out the door this morning. As we go through the day, though, our attention turns back to the west as a trough, a leading trough will be moving in across portions of the Four Corners region. This is the start of a very active weather pattern, folks. This trough is going to eject into the Plain States as we go into Friday, April 26th. And this is going to bring significant rounds of severe weather. So looking here at today's outlook from our friends over at the Storm Prediction Center, two separate areas, a bimodal enhanced risk severe day here across portions of the plains. We have an enhanced risk of severe weather across western Kansas. This is a 3 out of 5 on the scale. Also a 3 out of 5 here in the orange across northwest Texas, on up there across the Red River into southwestern portions of Oklahoma. This does include the Lawton, Fort Sill area down there toward Vernon and Wichita Falls, Texas, as we go through the day. But a larger broad brush, slight risk, which is a level 2 out of 5 in the yellow. And then the dark green, that's a level 1 out of 5 in the dark green shaded color. Let's go over the risks. The biggest risk today is going to be very large hail, especially where you see these dashed lines. That's where we could start to see hailstones over 2 inches in diameter. That is hen egg size or larger, stretching from southwestern Nebraska and northeast Colorado through western Kansas, the Oklahoma panhandle here into western Oklahoma, into portions of the eastern Texas panhandle, down into west central Texas. Also today, watching out for the tornado threat. It could be pretty significant, especially up here, maximized with a strong tornado potential across western Kansas. We're going to be watching out for that, but another broad brush 2 to 5% shading in the dark green and brown shaded colors here, stretching up into Nebraska, into northeastern Colorado, even far southeastern Wyoming, all the way down through the plains here, Kansas, into much of Oklahoma and western Texas with that tornado potential through the day. And we have the threat for some wind. The greatest wind threat will be down here into southwestern Oklahoma and northwest Texas. Again, Vernon, Texas to the Wichita Falls, Texas region, across the Red River here into Lawton and Fort Sill as we go into Oklahoma as we go through the day. Let's look at the setup for severe weather. Why are we seeing this? Well, we have a very strong, very sharp dry line here setting up across the western plains. You can see dew points behind that, very significant drought back in New Mexico. This is what you call an EML, an elevated mix layer. With the drought ongoing in New Mexico, this could put a cap on the atmosphere for a time Thursday afternoon and evening, kind of inhibiting those storms from forming. But look at the dry line, very sharp. You go from an 8-degree dew point literally in western panhandle of Oklahoma to about 20 miles down the street, you have a 60-degree dew point. So a very sharp dry line here across Oklahoma. This is going to yield your moderate to strong instability values, your CAPE, your convective available potential energy, climbing into the 2,000s and even 3,000s joules per kilogram, all the way up here into Kansas, western Oklahoma, and Texas through the day. And look at the low-level jet here. I want to show you the pattern of the low-level jet here this afternoon. Look at it's not really that strong. We're only around 40 to 50 knots, still an appreciable low-level jet, but watch as it cranks up very significantly as we go after dark. The nocturnal low-level jet really cranking over 60 knots here across Kansas, Oklahoma, and down into Texas. This is going to enhance the tornado potential even after dark. So let's look here at what we call a significant tornado parameter. And this parameter space actually takes up moisture, instability, but wind shear in the atmosphere in different levels and layers. And you can see near the warm front, we're going to watch as that warm front progresses further north through Kansas today, this afternoon. If a storm fires in this vicinity where those parameter space values are above 5s, that could actually produce a stronger tornado. A value greater than 1 on the significant tornado parameter is actually quite significant, so that is something to keep in mind. And look at all the values here greater than 1 across Kansas, Oklahoma, down into Texas tonight. As that low-level jet really starts to crank in over 60 knots, look at that maximizing here into western Kansas. That's why the Storm Prediction Center has that 10% hatched risk for strong tornadoes there overnight tonight across portions there of Kansas. So let's look at the timing of the storms and when you could expect them for today. So let's look here at this morning. The warm front is lifting further north. We have elevated thunderstorms. They could be severe with some larger hail, some gustier winds, but the tornado threat this morning is exceptionally low up here into the Central Plains. Those storms in Kansas will be dropping east-southeastward into portions of Missouri, into the Ozarks region. This will start to dwindle as we go through the afternoon. As we get into more of a peak daytime heating threat, the cap starts to build a little bit across the plains. And the reason why we're not seeing storms is because of that capping inversion for a time this afternoon. As we go into this evening, low pressure cyclogenesis starts to develop here on the lee side of the Rockies, and this is actually going to help to force some thunderstorms elevated in nature up into Nebraska. Those could be severe. We could see some tornadoes there, but I think as we go further south into Kansas, western Oklahoma, and northwest Texas, that's where the tornado threat will be the greatest here as we go through the evening. If we can start to see some supercells develop, I think more robust thunderstorm development will begin by early Friday morning. This is after midnight, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and just before sunrise. Big thunderstorms moving through the Oklahoma City metro area, Norman, all the way down there toward the Red River. Between Oklahoma and North Texas, a few stronger storms as well up here into Kansas. Those are the strongest storms we're watching out for after midnight. So again, make sure to have multiple ways to receive watches and warnings, including having a NOAA weather radio as you do sleep overnight tonight. As we go into Friday, that same trough, as it ejects from the Four Corners today into the plains, will lead to another level 3 out of 5, an enhanced risk of severe weather into eastern portions of Nebraska, northeast Kansas, into southwest Iowa there and northwest Missouri. As we go into tomorrow on Friday, April 26th, a large area of a broad brush slight risk here into the yellow. That is a 2 out of 5. Darker green is a 1 out of 5 here, stretching from the upper Midwest all the way down here almost to the Rio Grande Valley in south central Texas. The biggest threat tomorrow will be very large hail by far. We've had a lot of hail events this year. That will continue as we go into your Friday. You can see the hail threat significant. That's 2 inches or larger in diameter, hen egg size or larger, from Iowa and Nebraska southward through Kansas into Missouri there, eastern Oklahoma, western portions of Arkansas, and into North Texas. This does include areas like Omaha, up there toward Kansas City, Tulsa, the Fort Smith, Arkansas area, and down towards the eastern side of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Also, watching the triple point setup up here as well. We have that warm front lifting north. We have a dry line cold front set up across the plains and a stronger low pressure system, a deepening low as it moves up there into the northern plains and the Midwest. So we have to watch for that triple point backing of the winds up here near Omaha, getting into Kansas City. Those are the areas that we have a 10% hatched risk for strong tornadoes on Friday, but again, a broad brush 2 to 5% risk from the Midwest down here to the southern plains. as we go through Friday. And of course the wind threat as well, especially in the yellow shaded color here, could be seeing gusts over 60 miles per hour. So let's look at the setup here for Friday. You can see dew points up into the 60s as far north as that warm front gets into Iowa as we go into Friday. Dry line, not as sharp here on Friday, but still forcing some thunderstorm development as it starts to intersect that warm, moist, and unstable air, especially with these dew points into the mid and upper 60s with further southward extent toward the southern plains. Instability will be moderate to strong, so still seeing those 2,000s to 3,000s joules per kilogram of instability there on Friday. And I think Friday afternoon, the low-level jet is already strong. Look at that, almost 69 knots here at the max across especially the Ozarks region, and then still around 50, 60 knots up into Iowa. But watch as it continues to strengthen even more as we go into Friday evening. This is over 70 knots, folks. This is a lot of wind shear, a lot of speed shear in the environment. So these storms will definitely be tapping into that as we go through Friday. So look at the significant tornado parameter space for Friday afternoon and evening. Look at it maximizing near the triple point up here into Iowa, but also northwest Missouri. I want you to really keep an eye on it near the Kansas City region as we go into Friday afternoon and evening, because storms could definitely get ferocious. So let's look at the timing here. Friday morning, those ongoing storms that develop with that strong low-level jet Thursday evening will be ongoing further east toward the Mississippi Valley here, more likely the upper and middle Mississippi Valley into Iowa, western Illinois, back into the Ozarks of Missouri Friday morning. These storms will be mainly heavy rainfall producers. I'm not looking for any severe weather mainly with this activity. If there were to be, there would be mainly some 60-mile-an-hour winds and some quarter-size hail. The tornado threat is really low for Friday morning. Going into Friday afternoon, how does the atmosphere destabilize here downstream? Do we see cloud cover throughout the day? If we see that across the Mississippi Valley, those areas may be squelched from having any significant severe weather threat, but we turn our attention to the triple point back here. Eastern Nebraska, western Iowa, northwest Missouri, and northeast Kansas. That's where those supercells, more robust supercells, will develop as we have more daytime heating, a little bit more of some sunshine back in this region Friday afternoon, increasing instability, and an arcing band of some discrete or semi-discrete supercells near the triple point needs to be watched as they move from Omaha towards Des Moines and Ames, and then all the way down into northern Missouri here, very close to the Kansas City region. Later Friday afternoon and into Friday evening, these would be the storms with the game in town to produce some very strong tornadoes potentially. Also watching some supercell development down here as well from portions of, say, the Springfield and Joplin area down here into portions of eastern Oklahoma into North Texas near the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We could have some tornadoes, but mainly some hail and wind with those. I think the tornado threat is greatest further to the north. Now as we go into the weekend on Saturday, a second but separate trough will be moving into the Four Corners region, and look at the bigger trough here. It's a bowling ball type of trough on Saturday, even stronger than the first preceding trough Thursday into Friday. This one will be, again, ejecting across the plains Saturday into Sunday, and more significant severe weather. Look at the widespread nature of the severe weather on Saturday, literally stretching from the Canadian-U.S. border all the way to the Mexico-U.S. border, all the way down here in Texas and Mexico, with an enhanced risk actually updated from the Storm Prediction Center from around the Kansas City region here into northwestern Missouri, down into east central Kansas, much of central Oklahoma. This does include Wichita and Topeka, down into Oklahoma City and Tulsa, into the Norman area, into Lawton and Fort Sill. That extends across the Red River into far northern Texas, Wichita Falls area, and maybe in towards the Dallas-Fort Worth area as well for Saturday. Large broad brush slight risk here, literally from northern lower Michigan through Wisconsin, even Green Bay and Milwaukee, Chicago. You're very close to that slight risk or in it, and then that extends through the Davenport Quad Cities there in Iowa, down here through portions, say, of the Fayetteville and Fort Smith, Arkansas region, down into San Antonio and San Angelo, Texas, as we go into Saturday. Significant severe weather will be possible across the Plain States, literally from Iowa, Missouri, and Nebraska, southward through Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. Significant tornadoes, EF2 to EF5 strength, hurricane force wind gusts over 75 miles per hour, or even some damaging hail of 2 inches in diameter or larger. Your hen egg size hail or larger will be possible, if not likely, on Saturday. Let's look at the setup here The warm front is kind of going to get stuck up here into the Midwest. It's not really going to go further north than it is on Friday very much, but the dry line setup starts to enhance again as we have a new trough coming in, and we have a very large warm sector. Dew points in the mid and upper 60s, even low 70s down here into Texas Hill Country on Saturday. Look at the reservoir of instability here. This is like summertime instability. 3,000, 4,000, even 5,000 joules per kilogram, folks. That is extreme instability near the dry line there into Kansas, Oklahoma, and northwest Texas and North Texas on Saturday afternoon. I am very concerned about this because when you have that much moisture, you have that much instability, and you have a very strong speed max around the low pressure system here and trough, this is actually going to enhance the wind shear. And look at the low level jets Saturday afternoon, already over 50 knots, and then look at that increase very significantly, especially for Kansas and into Oklahoma here, into over 65 knots by Saturday night. That is going to lead to a very volatile environment for Saturday. Already seeing those significant tornado parameter values on Saturday afternoon high, especially in Kansas. But then look at that across Kansas, Oklahoma, down into western and northern Texas here. This could lead to a very large scale tornado outbreak potential as we go into Saturday. I think Saturday could be the most significant day out of all four between Thursday and Sunday for severe weather. Isolated supercells Saturday morning, larger hail out here toward Wichita Falls or the Vernon, Texas region will be possible. Those could be the storms to ignite our threat by Saturday afternoon. A lot of different storm modes here, line segments, multi-cell clusters, supercells, all of which could produce literally any type of hazard that you can think of. Tornadoes, strong tornadoes, hail, large hail, even some damaging straight line winds, hurricane force wind gusts here as we go into Saturday afternoon. Saturday evening, again after dark, make sure to have multiple ways to receive watches and warnings. That will continue there. And then going into Sunday, another broad brush slight risk of severe weather, again stretching from near Madison, Wisconsin, over here to Prairie du Chien, into portions there of Macomb, Illinois, into Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, and Iowa City, including the Davenport Quad Cities region, down here into Missouri, the Ozarks again, down into Little Rock and Fort Smith, Arkansas, into portions there of Kansas City, getting into Stigler, Ardmore, Oklahoma, and stretching down toward Paris, Texas, Texarkana, and the Dallas-Fort Worth area on Sunday. Right now, we're not going to worry about Sunday setup as it is still a few days out. We'll be updating you as we get closer, but look at the rainfall totals through Wednesday, May 1st. Look at, with both of the storms moving through, widespread heavy rain from the upper Midwest down the Mississippi Valley here towards the Gulf Coast. We could be seeing widespread totals well over 3 inches in many locations here, especially across the Missouri Valley into the southern plains. There could be pockets over 6 or 7 inches of rain before we're all said and done between now and Wednesday, May the 1st. So watch out for flash flooding. In the long range outlook into the first week in May, a ridge of high pressure will be in control across the eastern 2/3 of the country, bringing us above normal temperature anomalies here. The western U.S. trough will continue as more troughs coming in off the west coast. That means more active weather again across not only the upper Midwest, but down here through the plain states. This could lead to another period of active severe weather as we turn the page into early May. So we'll be watching out for that. Drier across the east, especially down here into southeastern Alabama, southern Georgia, and Florida, likely staying dry mostly into the first week into May. Folks, it's a very active weather pattern. Now is the time to prepare for severe weather. It is severe weather season. Make sure to have multiple ways to receive watches and warnings. A NOAA weather radio is the best tool you can use if you are sleeping here and to wake you up for severe weather warnings. So make sure you have those NOAA weather radios turned on. If you don't have a NOAA weather radio, make sure to purchase one. Very good tool to use for severe weather, especially if you live in the plains and the Midwest. So thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe out there, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Thursday out there.